Good evening, I'm Abdullah Hussein and welcome to Sudan in a Week on Albalad News. This week's roundup brings you the latest developments and headlines from Sudan. Chairman of the Sovereign Council, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, declared that Sudan will not participate in any initiative that lacks the essential elements outlined in the Jeddah Declaration. He emphasized the withdrawal of the rapid support forces from civilian areas as a crucial condition for peace talks. Sources confirmed that Sovereign Council Chairman General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan will travel to China to attend the China-Africa Cooperation Forum scheduled to take place from September 4th to 6th. Amid a warm reception in Rwanda, Sovereign Council Chairman General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan participated in the inauguration ceremony of the Rwandan president. During his visit, al-Burhan briefed President Paul Kagame on the RSF's transgressions against Sudan's institutions and people. General Shamsuddin Kabashi, Deputy Commander of the Armed Forces and member of the Sovereign Council, spoke to the Sudanese Egyptian media delegation. He said, "The army still holds control. You will soon see changes that will benefit the state and the citizens." Kabashi also rejected any expansion of Jeddah platform, emphasizing, "We don't want any new mediators beyond Saudi Arabia, the US, and the African Union." He added, "America is playing games, but we seek a peace agreement that fulfills the people's demand and ensure compensation for the suffering." Dr. Jibril Ibrahim, Finance Minister and the leader of the Justice and Equality Movement, addressed the Sudanese Egyptian media delegation, rejecting new mediators. He said, "We don't want new mediators or observers. The Americans are not willing to implement the Jeddah agreements. Keeping the RSF among civilians is unacceptable to the Sudanese people." He condemned crimes committed by the RSF and firmly stated, "Al-Fashir won't fall, and no one can force an agreement on Sudan that the people do not accept." The Sudanese government's negotiating team, led by Minister of Minerals Mohammed Bashir Abu Nammu, revealed threats from the US during the latest round of talks in Jeddah. The discussions were part of the ongoing efforts to resolve the conflict through diplomacy. After undergoing a successful surgery in Egypt, Sovereign Council member and Deputy Commander of the Sudanese Armed Forces, General Shamsuddin Kabashi, has returned to Port Sudan to resume his duties. Delegations from the Hawazma and Bani Halba tribes, consisting of tribal chiefs and leaders, have arrived in Port Sudan City to meet with the chairman of the Sovereign Council. The governor of Khartoum visited the families of victims who lost their lives during the malicious bombing in northern Karari. The National Mobilization Committee visited Khartoum State, where the governor reaffirmed the state's commitment to implementing the guidelines set by the mobilization regulation, reinforcing support for national defense efforts. The governor of the northern state has issued a decree dissolving the state government and forming a new administration. This move is seen as part of ongoing efforts to restructure the state's leadership amid challenging circumstances. Arrest warrants have been issued for 16 politicians, with Sudan seeking assistance from Interpol to apprehend them. This development marks a significant escalation in the government's pursuit of political figures. A Sudanese Arab delegation is headed to Doha to discuss post-war reconstruction efforts in Sudan. These talks are expected to focus on rebuilding infrastructure and supporting the country's recovery from conflict. The governor of the Central Bank of Sudan addressed the ongoing depreciation of the national currency, attributing it to the war. He called on the Ministry of Finance to find real sources of revenue to reduce reliance on borrowing from the central bank. Several hospitals have ceased operations due to deliberate targeting. The Sudanese Doctors Network accused the RSF of using shelling as a tactic to deprive civilians of healthcare services, further exacerbating the humanitarian crisis. On the fifth day of their journey, Sudanese refugees in Ethiopia continue their return to Sudan on foot. The painful journey reflects the desperate circumstances many are facing as they try to make their way back home. Sudan Liberation Army leader Minni Arko said that fire consumes itself if it has nothing else to burn, referring to the incident where RSF forces looted their own supplies in the city of Khartoum. Reports have surfaced that a high-level military delegation from Sudan has arrived in Moscow, with no official announcement has been made yet. Sudanese Minister of Minerals Mohammed Bashir Abu Nammu stated that the Geneva negotiations will not end the war, highlighting that Sudan faces difficult choices ahead. He emphasized the need for realistic solutions to resolve this conflict. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken held a phone call with General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, urging Sudan to participate in the Geneva peace talks to alleviate the suffering of millions of Sudanese civilians. The Norwegian ambassador has offered to mediate between Sudan and the U.S. Al-Burhan responded by emphasizing the presence of red lines in Sudan's diplomatic stance. Protesters gathered outside the Geneva Conference Hall demanding that the RSF be classified as a terrorist organization due to their atrocities against innocent civilians. Malik Agar, deputy chairman of the Sovereign Council, returned to Sudan after a diplomatic visit to Mozambique. During his trip, he discussed enhancing bilateral relations between the two countries. The Sovereign Council has decided to open the Adri border crossing for 3 months to facilitate the passage of humanitarian aid and refugees. U.S.-Egyptian talks are ongoing regarding the negotiations in Switzerland concerning Sudan. The discussions are aimed at finding a diplomatic solution to the conflict while addressing regional concerns. Sudan's foreign ministry has issued a strong statement regarding the Geneva meetings, declaring them ineffective. The ministry stated, "There is no point in the Geneva meetings. The militia is using them as a platform for false propaganda to cover up their crimes." The statement emphasized that peace cannot be achieved by allowing the militia to evade previous agreements. The ministry added firmly that labeling those who supply weapons to target civilians as peace partners or discussing Sudan's issues without its government will not bring peace. France's permanent representative to the United Nations clarified that Sudan's military has not yet confirmed whether it will participate in the Geneva talks, countering rumors of acceptance or rejection. The Arab League expressed its displeasure over not being invited to the Geneva negotiations regarding Sudan, highlighting regional concerns about the exclusion of key stakeholders from peace talks. Saudi Arabia welcomed the decision by the chairman of the Sovereign Council, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, to open the Adri border crossing, facilitating the delivery of humanitarian aid to the city of Al-Fashir. Ambassador Dafa'al al-Hajj presented his credentials as Sudan's permanent representative to the Organization of Islamic Cooperation (OIC) in Jeddah. He met with the OIC Secretary General Hussein Taha to discuss Sudan's role within the organization. Sovereign Council member and Deputy Commander of the Armed Forces, General Ibrahim Jaber, witnessed the signing of an agreement to complete the turbines of the Kalani Power Station in the Red Sea state. The contract was signed between the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Energy, and the Engineering Energy Company. The Gash River in Kassala State has reached its highest level in several years, measuring 290 centimeters as of Friday morning. The river surge raises concerns over potential flooding in the state. The RSF has been accused of destroying wildlife in the Dinder National Park, further highlighting the environmental damage in Sudan caused by the rebellious militia. U.S. Special Envoy to Sudan, Tom Perriello, reiterated that the top priority remains the implementation of the Jeddah Declaration and a ceasefire in Sudan, along with the delivery of humanitarian aid. In what many consider a bold move, the Sudanese Armed Forces celebrated their 70th anniversary while completely ignoring the ongoing Geneva peace talks. The celebration underscored the military's defiant stance amid the conflict. Health authorities in the northern state have reported the collapse of more than 2,000 houses completely and more than 3,000 partially due to the ongoing rainy season. Additionally, 24 government facilities have been affected by the difficult weather conditions. The UAE has confirmed its ongoing efforts in Geneva to halt hostilities in Sudan, aiming to bring an end to the conflict through diplomatic channels. The RSF has been accused of looting charitable kitchens and food supplies in Shambat area, as well as assaulting volunteers. These actions have sparked outrage, further tarnishing the militia's image. Coinciding with the Geneva negotiations, the U.S. renewed its offer for a $5 million reward for information leading to the capture of former regime official Ahmed Haroun. That's it for this week's top stories. Thank you for watching and see you next Friday on Albalad News. Have a great weekend.